if you knew with 100% certainty that the person that you are lending money to might not only pay it back before the time comes, but maybe, perhaps this individual might even give you a little bonus because you didn't ask him for collateral. That is the sixth argument that we make with this individual who we call the solicitor of security deposits, is that you don't want to ask the person for collateral because you kind of will find favor with this individual if you didn't ask him for collateral. And the seventh and final argument that we make with this individual is that if you were to give a collateral to an individual, you would want to make sure that that person can actually afford to give you the loan that you're asking for, right? So this is the same thing with Hashem. When you're asking for Hashem for a deposit so that you could go ahead and live out an easy life and then provide your Avodas Hashem, who says you're going to be able to provide that Avodas Hashem? Who says you have enough in the bank to be able to get that done? Who says you have enough time left in your days that you'll be able to repay that loan that Hashem is giving you? So therefore, at the end of the day, the mindset and the thought process of the solicitor of security deposit is flawed and it's backward. I'm Rav Av, and this is Shaar HaBitachon. All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's Shir Shabila Ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem Ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gavriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel Ben Yosef Dov HaKohen, Beschus L'Refuah Shalem Bakarov Meshalom Ben Sarachel, and Miriam Bas Sarah. Today we are on page 386 in the Orah Vigdor for those who are following along. And today we're actually going to finish off the sixth and the seventh arguments that we make with the solicitor of security deposits, and that's going to finish actually Perek Shishi, and then we're going to move into the two final chapters, and we're going to be probably done within the next couple of weeks. But quick pause here for just a moment. If this share is meaningful to you and has helped you build your trust in Hashem, I've created a Patreon link that I posted in the description below. All right, now back to our share. Today we are going to be talking about the sixth and seventh argument that we make with the solicitor of security deposits. And just one more time, who is the solicitor of security deposits? That's the individual who, when you ask him, when are you going to start dedicating your time to Avodas Hashem? And his response is, I don't have the time to do that. I need to first provide a livelihood for myself, my wife, and be able to support myself. And only when I am clear and I'm comfortable enough that I'll be able to live out my years, and not have to worry about money, only then will I have enough time to dedicate towards Hashem and being an Eved Hashem. So today, the two last arguments are as follows. The first of which, which is the sixth of the seventh arguments, is something we call certainty of repayment. So when someone borrows money from you and you are 100% certain that they're going to pay you, now obviously you can't be 100% certain, but there's a very, very, very high likelihood of great credibility that they're going to repay you. You're going to treat this individual slightly different. So now let's see what Rabbeinu Bachya over here in Shaar HaBitachon tells us about such a situation. Vashishi, the sixth argument against the person who asks Hashem for a security deposit is Ki hamakabel mashkin mechavera, that when you and another person are talking to each other and you require a collateral from your friend who's borrowing money from you, is that when someone makes that pledge to this individual, when he gives him the collateral, right, he does this ilu hoyu baruloi, if he was certain, so if the lender was certain, sheyifareu kodim zmanoi, that perhaps that the borrower would pay him, would repay him before the time comes. So let's say you lent him money for 12 months, and you know that this guy is going to pay you back in 4 months, right? He's doing 12 months just because, but he has that breathing room, but this guy might pay you back in a much shorter time. Or, in return for being patient and not asking for this individual, the borrower, for a collateral, that the person might reward him. So you as the lender, in back of your mind, you know that this guy's a great guy. Maybe he's good for business, or whatever the case is. You want to be friends with the guy. And so you say, what? I trust this guy. I'm going to lend him the money that he's asking me for. And I'm not going to ask him for collateral. And the reason I don't want to ask him for collateral is because I know back in my mind that I'll gain favor with this individual. That's the concept, right? you want to gain favor with him, and maybe he'll even pay you back even extra. He'll give you like a gift and say, "Wow, you were so patient with me. I'm so appreciative of that, and so here's some extra money or something like that." And so similarly, his attitude would be very, very, very different. So he wouldn't take in such a situation, he might not take a collateral. And similarly, his attitude would be different if he knew that the borrower would definitely repay the loan, and that it would lead to his becoming a very good friend, and one who would do him many, many favors. That is the high-level concept of this scenario that we talk about in this sixth argument. So now let's compare it to Hashem and Avodas Hashem. So now we understand that we might not take a collateral from such an individual, and we're going to compare it to Hashem. As for Hashem, we know that He always gives us, right? And His great kindness to us, Chadoshim in recent times, Gam Yeshanim and in ancient times, and that He rewards people for righteousness and His service. We know historically, whether it's from your own personal life, or from other people's lives, or from what we've learned in the Torah, we know and we see that Hashem was always kind, was always giving. He was always comparing to this scenario that we spoke about, from one person to another. He was always willing to give more and more and more. We know that about Hashem. Hashem is that type of, so to speak, borrower, if you want to compare him to the scenario we're speaking about. But in ways that are not imagined. That's how much Hashem has given us the kindness. Let alone described. We know from experience what happened to people who trust in Hashem and how He granted them the unexpected happiness. And how do we know that? It says in the pasuk, no eye but yours, Hashem, has seen what you will do for those who hope to you. Therefore, since you know there is going to be a great reward for trusting in Hashem, you know that if you don't take that collateral and you just do your part, you give the loan, so to speak, you are the Eved Hashem that you're supposed to be, historically speaking, you can expect a whole lot more goodness, kindness from Hashem, as we've seen. And they will earn a very great reward by not asking for a pledge from Hashem. And that is that sixth argument. And now moving on to the seventh and final argument, it's like this. We're going to talk about the uncertainty of the obligation. So the uncertainty of the obligation is, let's do it inside in the text. It'll be a lot easier. The seventh argument against the person who asks Hashem for security, so the solicitor of security deposit, is the person who takes a collateral from his friend. You could only take the pledge if you, the lender, know that you're able to fulfill the loan. So if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, can I borrow $1,000?" And you say, "Sure, I need a collateral for that." You would only say, "Sure, I need a collateral for that." You would only take that collateral if you are able to provide that person with what they're asking, which is the $1,000. But if you can't afford to lend that person that $1,000, then why would you ask for collateral? You would never ask for collateral because you're not providing that service for that person. So therefore, it is wrong for you to ask for collateral in such a scenario. So now let's see inside and how that compares to Avodas Hashem in this world. But someone who takes a pledge from Hashem in the form of an advance payment, again, you're asking Hashem, you solicit a security deposit, you say, "Hashem, I need a deposit for the Avodas Hashem that I'm going to give you." We just said that you wouldn't ask your friend for a collateral if you can't be sure that you could fulfill their request. You can't afford the $1,000 maybe that he wants to borrow from you. You have no power to deliver the service against which those benefits are being pledged. Meaning, you as a person, you're promising Hashem that you're going to provide Hashem for endless mitzvos and everything, or just be the good Eved Hashem that you are promising to be for all the rest of time. And for that, you want a deposit. But how much time do you have? Who says you're going to do it? You're making promises that you are unsure by yourself if you can fulfill. You'd like to do them. That's really, really nice. but you're not sure you want to fulfill those obligations. You're not sure you're able to, rather, to fulfill those obligations. He cannot be sure that he himself will be able to repay his old debts, let alone make advances for the new ones. You already owe Hashem so much for the many, many years that you've been alive, and Hashem has kept you in good health and has provided for you. You have all kinds of goodness in your life. You're not even sure if you're going to be able to afford to pay back Hashem for that. Now you're asking Hashem for more when you're still not sure that you're going to be able to pay Him for the new ones either. So comparative to the person that we just spoke about, you cannot ask for a collateral when you are incapable of making sure that you could provide that loan to that person. That's the comparison over here. For the righteous man cannot pay his debts for Hashem, for his goodness to him, unless Hashem helps him. And that's the final piece over here that he says, which is very interesting. So you're going to a person, and let's go back to an individual. He's borrowing $1,000 from you. Now, the only way you're going to make sure that you get back that $1,000 if this person gives you some sort of help and assistance with that. It's a little weird. Because if you're lending the person money, but you rely on that person for other assistance, how does that work? So say, for instance, your boss, right? Your boss provides you a paycheck. Your boss wants to borrow from you $1,000 for whatever reason, right? And now it's just weird because you still rely on this person for everything else. By Hashem, you are asking Hashem for something, yet you need Hashem to be able to finish that obligation. Because Hashem, we know, is the one who makes everything happen. We could do our shtadlis, we could try to do things, but the outcome is not up to us. So how can we promise an outcome if it's not even up to us? Who says Hashem is going to allow us to do that? So bottom line, you are asking Hashem for a deposit for something that you might not be able to fulfill. So you're asking for that deposit for the services that you're going to render, but you don't even know if you're going to be able to render those services because you actually need Hashem to help you in that outcome. Hashem might not have already designated, your timeline in your life, so you might not even have enough time left in order to fulfill that obligation to pay back that deposit, that loan that you took from Hashem. So at the end of the day, the solicitor of security deposit has a very flawed and backward mentality, a backward way of thinking. And we need to start being proactive. Instead of waiting for the money, for the comfort, for the ease of life that we've mentioned over the last 2 weeks, we have to just start doing our job. And our number one obligation in this world is to be the best Eved Hashem that we can be. Now, before we conclude for today, I was looking up a Devar Torah to say today, and the first one that I came across is funny, because I remembered saying it. And it's been that long that we've had this year that I remembered saying it last year. So it's been a year ago, at least. It's been more, we know that, but it's just come to the point already where the Devar Torahs are actually becoming repetitive. So I saw something else and something very interesting. So I dug a little deeper because I like the ones that talk directly to Bitachon. So this one doesn't speak directly to Bitachon, but it speaks to a person as a whole. This week in the Parsha we saw, and it says that Paro forgot who Hashem was. He asks Moshe Rabbeinu, who is this Hashem that you are referring to? It's very interesting because just a couple of years before that, Yosef HaTzadik, he saved the entire world from famine. Yosef was like the king, and the entire world knew his name. Everybody had gratitude towards him. Everybody loved him. So much so that he made Mitzrayim to be the wealthiest country on the planet because of all his planning beforehand and how the logistics of it. Yosef was known by the entire world and they loved him. He saved their lives. Single-handedly, he saved their lives. Now comes Paroi and the whole of Mitzrayim, and they don't remember who Yosef HaTzadik is. They forget all the goodness that he's done, all the kindness that he's shown. And all of a sudden, they're like, no, who's this God that you speak of? Paro tells Moshe Rabbeinu, And it boggles my mind as it would yours. Like, how is someone who does such this amazing thing for you in your life, and you could forget it so easily? So the answer is, it does. It does work that way. I want you guys to think back in your own lives, not a year ago, not 2 years ago, but 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Think of something that happened to you that you had someone help you out with, whatever that was. At that time, you might have been super, super grateful towards that individual. But as time goes by, you might not even remember that individual's name. Think about it. If there was a scenario, if you could remember, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, there's a person that helped you out with something. I don't know what that is. It doesn't matter. But that person helped you, and you were really grateful towards that person for the first day, for the first month, for the first year. And then slowly it fizzled out. You stopped calling him on Erev Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur to say thank you again. You don't remember the guy's name. That is exactly what human nature is. Human nature is that we do forget things sometimes. But that is what makes someone different than the other. What makes you great, it makes you greater than another person. It's not that you're not grateful towards the people that help you. It's that you remember who you are grateful to and what you are grateful for. That's a lesson that we learned from this week's Parsha. That we can never forget the kindness that other people have given to us. And so I have a challenge for you guys. If there was, and there might have not, if there was someone who helped you out many, many years ago, and perhaps you don't even speak to that person anymore, I want you to reach out to that individual and shoot them a text message or give them a call and say, hey, I know I haven't spoken to you in 15 years. I'm calling you out of the blue. I just want to tell you, I still remember that time when you helped me out. When I was down and I was depressed or whatever it was, you took the time to help me. You took the time to talk to me. You took the time to help me through my issue at that time. And I want you to know that I'm still eternally grateful towards you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all here today. And as always, I love each and every one of you.